You'll notice today we're at a park, and the reason we're filming this episode in a park is because today I want to remind you why we should never stop being a kid. Growing up, I was a huge fan of Winnie the Pooh, and if you're not familiar with the story of Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin had stuffed animals that he brought to life, and they would go on these great adventures off in the 100 Acre Woods and just loved Winnie the Pooh. And in the final chapter, he's sitting down with Pooh and Tigger and Roo and the Grumpy Rabbit, and he's trying to get them to understand why, since he's going to school, he's not going to be able to play anymore. And they're not getting it, and finally he says, quote, "Sometimes good things come to an end. But here's the secret, everyone. Come in, come closer. Memories are forever." And I'm just curious, how often do you think about your childhood memories, specifically your childhood adventures? It doesn't matter how you grew up. I grew up dirt poor in Lawton, Oklahoma, and fortunately, there are no income limitations on a child's imagination. And one of my favorite childhood adventures was finding the courage to explore Devil's Den. Now, I know that sounds ominous, but here's the thing. In this park close to our neighborhood, we had these creeks that took water throughout the city as kind of flood control. But there was a section where it went underwater. And as soon as you turned the corner, it was just pitch black. And so over the years, we would get up more and more courage to get closer and closer to where it turned the corner and got black. And, it was called Devil's Den. And the reason it was called that is all of us kids believed that if you went in there, that the devil, the boogeyman, whoever would snatch us and we wouldn't come out. And I'm sure parents facilitated that story because not the safest place in the world to play. But one day I'm with my cousin, my brother, some friends, we're on our bikes, and I'm like, today is the day. Today we're going to do it. And I looked around the corner and nothing happened, and I came back out and I looked around again, and off in the distance I could see a light. And so I convinced my crew that if we could just get on our bikes and pedal to the light, we would be okay. And for some reason they listened, and we went in, we're pedaling as hard and fast as we could, and just before we get to the light, bam, we wipe out because it was pitch black and we didn't have flashlights or a torch or anything like that. There was this huge pole hidden in the darkness. And in that moment, we did think the boogeyman was coming to get us, but it was just a pipe. We recovered, nothing broken, and we're standing there underneath a light that went up to the street above, and we could see the end of the tunnel. And I'm not sure if it was my suggestion or somebody else's suggestion, but we all agreed it would be best to just push our bikes to the end of the tunnel. And when we made it to the end of the tunnel, we felt like we had found a new world, or we had made some other incredible discovery. Back then, it was the fear of the unknown that kept us from going into the tunnel. But as we age, what I've realized, there are so many more barriers that keep us as adults from making memories. And what I want to do real quick is talk about some of those memories. The first one is the expectation of others. Believe it or not, I was over 40 the first time I ever went to a beautiful Florida beach. And the first day we got out in the water, me and my wife, and we had the best time. So we come back the next day and we've got boogie boards this time. And we go way out in the water, and for hours, I'm getting on this boogie board like a 9-year-old, catching waves, having the time of my life. Here's the thing. When I was on that board, I wasn't worried about if My behavior was age appropriate. I wasn't worried about what the people on the beach were thinking. I was just allowing myself to have a good time. Another barrier I believe that keeps us as adults from making memories is what I call drift. And drift happens when we let responsibilities, routines, and the fear of taking a risk that might make life more difficult keep us from implementing change or trying new things. The second or the third thing I think gets in the way sometimes of us making memories, being a kid, is we just push pause on happiness. Over 20 years in working with couples, what I've come to realize is when they come to see me most of the time, it's not because they were never good together or happy together, but somehow over time, again, responsibilities and finances and routine and just focusing on everything else, they push pause on their personal happiness, their couple happiness, and spend all their time and energy and resources on everybody else's happiness. Here's the thing. We can learn to be happy again. And one of the ways that we can kind of cultivate more happiness into our life is letting our inner child take the lead. So think about this. What would happen if you were to let your inner child tell you what to do on your next day off, the next weekend, next vacation, next holiday that you have off? Where would you go? Who would you go with? What would you do? You think about what are the benefits of letting your inner child take the lead every once in a while. Well, one, think about kids and how they make memories and how they approach life, right? They find joy in the most simple things. I mean, have you ever taken the cardboard tube from wrapping paper and turned it into a sword or a looking glass, right? We used to turn rocks into grenades when we were kids, and sticks into rifles, and play the Super Bowl in front of the church lawn until they would run us off. I mean, kids just find joy in the most simple things. The other thing about being a kid is it's so much easier for them to be creative and curious. Science tells us that maintaining a creative, curious mindset to life is great for our personal well-being. It reduces stress. It makes us more friendly and more fun to be around. The other thing about being a kid is kids know how to just be in the moment. Happy kids are content in playing whatever game they're playing or whatever activity they're caught up in. They're not worrying about tomorrow, next week, next month. They're just in the moment. So again, if you were to let your inner child take the lead, next weekend, next day off, where would you go? Who would you take with you? What would you do? And here's the thing, if you need help planning an adventure, learning how to let the inner child lead, send me a message. I'd be glad to help. And if you have benefited, enjoyed our talk today, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and go one step better. Leave some comments, share some of your favorite memories, or maybe talk about what's hard for you in letting your inner child take the lead. Until next time, remember to roam well.